to those of you concerned about whether the Democratic leadership still represents you or any middle-class Americans. I've been contending for 15 years that they don't, and it's gotten worse, not better. They are not, in D.C., pro-worker, okay? That was one reason a lot of us, and certainly our parents, signed on to be Democrats, okay? They were the party of working men and women. I'll get to the women part after this. They were for better living conditions. They were for increased power against oppressive management. Well, now the party is for big business. They're aligned with management. They get more donations from big managerial and owner class than they do from unions and individual workers. So the DC Democrats play to those. Sorry. The worst part is that since COVID, it's been manifest that the leaders in Washington Democrats, they're pro, not worker, but people who don't want to work. They give benefits, unrestricted, unlimited, to those who are capable, and there's plenty of jobs available, who don't want to work. Okay? It used to be that you had to show evidence of looking for work. Every week, somebody would look things over. Oh, that's too hard. You're discriminating against some people who and they would come up with a different discrimination block every other month. The bottom line is they get mileage from interest groups that use the poorest people and the laziest people. The ones who aren't necessarily poor, they get plenty of government benefits, and they don't want to end those benefits, so don't work. Because as soon as you get a job, unfortunately, the system is rigged so that it cuts off a lot of benefits. How many people have you run into? Oh, I'd like to do that job. I would love to go back to X career, but then I'd lose my state benefit, Social Security benefit, disability benefit, Medicaid benefit. This is a horrible system run mainly by Democrats. Now, Republicans have assented in this horrible system. They assented in paying people during COVID. Excuse for both that lasted maybe 3 months. Oh, there's no jobs. We have to have some sort of tiding over. Okay? By the summer of 2020, that scare was over. All right, number 2. I related this already. Big business is now aided more by Democrats than Republicans ever did. Okay? The reason why they're so tied in is that government, which has gotten powerful, more powerful, state and federal are using their power more, and with it, business ties itself to these powerful groups within the government. Why would they want to tie themselves to government? Because it's safe. And when you're big and established, you prefer safe to competing on the free market with some upstarts, with some companies that are small now, but might replace you. So they use government at the state level to make laws and regulations that primarily hurt small business. Ostensibly, it might look even, but the small business doesn't have the lawyers, the compliance people, the extra resources that the big business can get. And then when the small business a few years later is gone because of being over-regulated, the big business owners, stockholders, managers, they're real happy. Number 3, we didn't sign up for a Democrat Party that wants to spy on Americans. But among the big businesses that the Biden administration has helped are Google and Facebook, now Meta. These are companies that have been paid to report to the government. Okay, I think that's even worse than government spying. Okay, at least the government's doing it itself, and they might get caught. When they enlist the established that has so many consumers in their pockets, in their hands, and they're paying to have that kind of data. We're the victims, and they don't care. Number 4, civil rights. Okay, the Democrat Party in the 60s and 70s was more clearly pushing for the rights of Americans to have equality under the law, and in particular, African Americans. But on terms of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, all three get squelched by the Democrats in power. Start with life. Most important, right? Yet, nowhere in Western history has there been ever something as stupid as defund the police. Where did that come from? The far left, supported by the moderate left called the Democrat Party. It puts people in bad neighborhoods in even more jeopardy. Police can't be everywhere. And if they're pulling them back even more, there's more rapes, more robberies, more murders, and that's because of government policy. Liberty. Well, especially African Americans. What? You're so ripped off. I mean, we all are ripped off by Social Security. Democrats don't do anything about it. Okay, Republicans don't do enough. Democrats leave intact a system that every year extracts from blacks far more than whites. African Americans generally pay into the Social Security system longer. They tend to start work earlier, but they don't use the benefits on the back end. Their life expectancies, unfortunately, are shorter. And so, average African American man retiring at 65 has statistically 3.5 years to live with those nice benefits that he paid in for 45 years. Okay, average white American man, life expectancy 72. Okay, so he's got 8 years compared, or 7.5 years more. This is so burdensome too. If you had the 15.6% that's being taken from your income year after year after year, if you had that to spend, to save, you wouldn't need Social Security. You would be on your second home after 30 years and probably have a third home just on the savings that you could pay, get extra income in rentals. Finally, pursuit of happiness. Oh my God. The state of education in urban areas where civil rights was supposed to be most needed, it's decrepit. You end up with Democrats catering to what the teacher unions want, and they don't want choice, and that keeps African Americans in bad schools staying in bad schools. Okay? The lifting up, the elevation of happiness, which usually, not essential, but better education tends to lead to that, is being denied. And it would be so easy. I myself have a choice in schools proposal that I invite every state to use. It will be in my home state's legislative docket by the end of this year. Finally, talk about happiness. It's not real happy when you lose your job. It's especially galling when a Democrat-controlled Congress has you lose your job to immigrants, not Americans, okay? Illegals or even legal, but not welcome to displace good, especially African American, very good workers from newcomers. Okay? We should be supporting our indigenous people here. Immigrants have a place, but not the excess place that the Democrat leadership has given. Finally, a long time ago, actually a short time ago, the Democrat Party was perceived as good for women. Well, that's totally on its head, given their leaders' embrace of the trans movement, or even beyond that, because there aren't that many trans. There are the people who feel they have a right to invade feminine places, locker rooms, for girls, bathrooms for women, because some mentally unstable guy thinks he's a woman. You ruin the privacy. You actually make some women pray to guys who are straight and want to get peeps, or worse, in girls' locker rooms. And it has happened in multiple schools. Literally, rapes because of a school policy that allowed a guy to be in a girl's bathroom. You can't have this kind of movement and say that you are pro-woman, because this destroys femininity. This destroys women as a class in itself, if there is no such thing as class and everything is fluid in the gender spectrum that these Democrats propose. Right-thinking people, and most Democrats are right-thinking people. The wrong ones happen to become leaders in this party. But right-thinking Democrats, almost every independent, every Republican, knows that there are only two sexes. That thinking you are going to alter your sex is insane. Okay? You might put on body parts, but a male is never going to be able to produce, menstruate, lactate, give birth. Never will happen. A female is never going to be able to produce sperm. Okay? And those who goad, and even those who allow goading, government officials who allow this kind of even private transing, are not doing their job, because their job at minimum is to start with truth. The trans agenda starts with a falsity, that women can become men, men can become women, and from there, everything else is abhorrent. That's the state of your Democrat leadership. I am Mark Stewart, hoping you'll join me to potentially change that. Thanks. You do have a question. Okay, so I can take it. All right, so comment was, why, or that right, the Biden administration is pro-worker because they're going after the big guys. You can't successfully go after the big guys. Okay, even before this, I heard from you, I think, that, oh, the few people who've been laid off and don't want work, that they'll skirt around any sort of work regulations. Okay, you're probably right. Maybe that's 2% of people. But don't you think the 2% of the wealthiest people, okay, those who also have lawyers, accountants, agencies to help them, will skirt through any Biden administration, rein in the rich type of scheme? Okay? We're not going to get a flat tax, which could do it. And even if it did, that's when you end up losing many of those high earners and high producers to other countries. So my solution? You empower workers by disempowering government influence. Okay? So, one, that without the horrible policies that have created inflation, you would end up having workers able to pay for more. And number two, that when you have a free market and you're not tethered to unions any more than bargaining on wages and safety. That was the essence of union demands in the 1930s and 40s. It should be that way now. When you start having demands for padded health care, okay, some families don't need that. Some families would rather have more money that they spend their own way. When you have extra vacation time, bargained for by your union bosses, but you actually want to get ahead, prove that, hey, I will work extra hours, and the union doesn't even let you, it stultifies your careers.